first up, we do have the South Sydney Rabbitohs, and Jesse sort of hinted to it. First of all, I started off with the first 5 games. I promise everyone tonight, and everyone who has been listening, I've been shocking with this. I'm going to remember every time tonight, and if I don't know. We'll come up with a punishment for me, and I'll have to do it, probably some sort of dare or something.
Bleach your head.
All right, I'll bleach my head. You know what? I'll hold you. All right, if I forget one tonight, I'll bleach my head. There you go.
No way.
Done. Do it. First round, Manly for the Rabbitohs. They got Manly obviously in Vegas. I think that's less than just over 2 weeks away or something now. That's crept up so quickly.
Mate,
Brisbane round 2, so obviously they got to first see one of the other Vegas teams, and then the Roosters round 3. So they actually get all 3 teams that are going across. So that's quite handy. Round 4 is the Bulldogs, and round 5 is the New Zealand Warriors. So it's not ideal. I mean, apart from the Dogs, it's quite a tough draw to start off with, and then it's been compounded with, as Jesse's already sort of alluded to, some injuries that we've learnt a lot of recently, especially like obviously Jack Whiten already suspended for the first couple of weeks. Back round 3, Campbell Graham, his sternum, he's out for now. I think like NRL app's got it here till round 22.
Yeah,
I've actually heard stuff. He might not even be back for the season. They might just get him for next year and just make sure his body's right.
Yeah.
That's a huge blow because for mine, especially at the start of last year, he was arguably the best in the competition. So the fact that they've gone from having Whiten and Graham in their centre pairing to now, at least for the first 2 weeks, they won't get that even one of them. That's a huge blow. And then you put compound that with Walker's apparently 50-50 to even make the Vegas trip at the moment. He's injured. And obviously we heard about Munro in the last 24 to 48 hours as well. And he's gone, I think, now for 8 weeks or something. So that was another Supercoach relevant player, which we will get to the backline side of things. But Jesse, just straight up off the injury side of things and that run, it's
brutal, man.
It's exciting times for the Rabbits, I feel like, this year, but that's brutal.
Yeah, it kicked them off to the worst possible start too. Like their fixture run wasn't great to begin with, but I still held a bit of hope that, well, not hope. Like I don't really want them to succeed too much, but I want their players to score really good points. And I really felt like they would. Exactly. Yeah, I can't have it too much for them, but I really expected them to come out swinging. You know what I mean? Especially after the way their season ended last year. There was so much infighting. There was so much talk about them, and I just thought that, you know, without really hearing anything from the sheds, I would just sort of expect them to pull their socks up, come out, and just really try and prove themselves a point. The fixtures aren't great. Good teams get past them, you know what I mean? Like, they can make it work. The Manly game in Vegas is going to be one of those ones where it could be anything, you know what I mean? It could be an absolute blowout, or it could be just the shittest game to watch. So who knows where that is? But then, you know, they've got the Broncos and they've got the Roosters straight after. So it was a tricky start. And now they've got pretty much no backline too. So, yeah, how unlucky, man. Like,
it's tough.
Lining up with Whiten and Graham as your centers, like you said, to having what they're going to run with Tass and Milne now, I'd imagine, for at least a little while until Whiten's back. Like, it just torched them. So yeah, who knows, man. Rough draw, that one.
It is, and we are obviously talking Supercoach here, but from just quickly an NRL point of view, I think this is not what Coach Demetra wanted or needed. As you said, like, he was under a lot of pressure at the end of last year. There was a lot of stuff coming out about South and how they sort of finished, and some murmurs coming out with the playing group and the coaching staff and all the like. As you said, they needed to come out firing this year, and this is just... Yeah, if you're a South Sydney fan, and I know a few, and obviously we've got Random South guy part of our team for this year, and I know him, after talking to him, he hasn't been too impressed. It's obviously not the start that they want at all. So, but from a Supercoach point of view, we're starting with the hookers. Damien Cook, 663K. Average last year is 65 with 23 matches. Currently owned by 4% of people. Damien Cook, I mean, I've got to be honest. I don't know why this year, but I just have not looked at him at all. Like I have not spent more than probably 2 seconds where I've just been scrolling past his name. Like I just, I don't, and it probably has to do with the fact that looking down just a touch to Peter Mamazelis.
Mamazelis.
I think that's how you pronounce it. He's just recently
Yeah.
re-signed to the club for 3 years.
Yep.
Now, unless they didn't have a plan to start him maybe off the bench for quite a bit this year and start to get him some game time in the NRL, I don't know where 3 years comes into it and why they pushed for 3 years. Obviously, I know for his camp why they would, but for South to agree to that for a guy that hasn't really played much NRL at all yet with Damien Cook there. I don't know. I think that part of there is sort of just keeping me to avoid Cook.
Yeah, like now you'd have to think that Cook would definitely be slowing down. Like, he's I would have to say, no disrespect to him, he's obviously been a legend to, the Blues and the Rabbits for a fair while, but he's got to be slowing. And that's obviously why the Rabbits have gone and signed Mamazelis on a bit of a contract there, a bit of a longer term play. I don't know how much longer Cook's got as an 80-minute player though. You saw him sort of taper off a bit with that last season. And I reckon this season you're going to see a lot more of that rotation from him. So it kind of takes that edge off him because his whole appeal was that, he'd go out there and play 80 every week and, he'd pump out a good score too. So and his price tag too, 660. Jeremy Marshall-King's probably had a lot to do with his lower ownership, I would say, because I would prefer Marshall-King as well. Yeah. And then again, you're so close to Grant, you can save a bit, go down. It's one of those awkward price tags for not like pretty much no upside too. I don't see him ever really outscoring what he's priced at. So you get him for where he's at. Their run's not great. They probably will struggle now to begin with. And he will probably more than likely rotate with Mamazelis and lose, 20 minutes here, there and there. So I feel like, now we're just going to sort of see the decline a little bit on Cook's final years, I'd imagine. So that's kind of where it's at. But even still, like I reckon he still get you a 60 points, pretty comfortably, but not for 660. I just don't feel like it's worth it.
Funny you mentioned that. Just quickly looking at obviously the upcoming opponents, the first 3 games. So Manly, I'm just going to talk about 2023 numbers. So he versed Manly once, 68 points. The Broncos versed him twice last year for a 59 and a 55. And the Roosters, they played him twice last year for an 88 and a 58. So,
Yep.
You know what? You'd probably be pretty happy with those numbers, especially looking at the draw originally going, oh, that's a tough start. If it was to produce those sorts of numbers, you know what? You're probably going, all right, I'm happy with this. And then I'm hoping once he gets to the easier teams like the Bulldogs game, we're getting close to that 100 sort of points, which I feel like he could probably produce against like the Dogs, but we don't know what we're going to get from the Dogs yet. But yeah, I'm sort of with you just because of the other players around. And like we've spoken about in the past as well, like you got probably players like Robson and stuff where early on, I think they can keep up with these sorts of players points wise, like your Cooks and stuff, when you're saving a bit of money to help go somewhere else with your team and make that position like a different position stronger. So I think that's impacting Cook a lot this year when I look at those numbers, because in theory, you'd probably look at that and expect it to be about 10% because it's Damien Cook. We know what he can produce. Yeah. But I think people are starting to get a bit smarter. Obviously, there's more and more things you can listen to, podcasts and stuff as well, and pages to follow. People are starting to think outside the box of stuff and trying to find better ways to make teams work. I think that's impacted, as you said, Cook quite a bit this year as well.
Yeah, definitely, man. Like we can see it more this year with the slimness of cashies in general. And, obviously how many times have you had to find a cheaper option to someone? I just feel like if you had Cook in there at 660, you would have taken a bit of chunk of coin out of there. So if you have to cash out for 100, you can still get down to there's still a fair few 80-minute hookers down there, in the 500s that'll still do a very, very similar job. So yeah, not too premium anymore for me. So you've got Cranon and that's it really. So
no, he isn't. We did mention Peter Mamazelis already, which I wouldn't be looking at owning him yet, even if he's 243K. But Keep an eye on things. I think down the track later in the season, I think we might be starting to have some serious conversations around him, especially if Cook is to go down. And Havili, for mine, would never be an 80-minute hooker. So even if he was there, I'd anticipate Mamazelos would be doing the majority of the hooker work and spending more majority of the time on the field. So he would then become an option if we were to lose Cook for an extended period of time. Front row forwards, we'll start with Jai Arrow, 466K. I think with the recent injury news that Souths have gone down, I think that, if anything, may have tempted a few more to go towards Jai Arrow, because I think he's nailed down now the starting spot in the second row. Because of this, they want to put some more stability, some more experience around the lineups. The lineup, he's currently owned at 4% with an average last year of 45.6 over 14 games. So, is any temptation there for you, Jess?
A little bit. There was already a little bit of temptation there to begin with too, because he has the dual, and at 466, when you price him with the second rowers, especially, that's right in the midst of all those, mid guns that we're all looking at. So, in the front row option though, I think it might actually be quite good, because, like, if he gets I don't know if he's going to get an 80-minute edge roll, to be fair, but in the front row spot, you kind of aren't expected to have anyone that's going to do that anyway. So, if he's going to do more than the expected 50-odd minutes for your starting props, it's going to be more upside regardless, potentially anyway. So for 466, you could do a lot worse, genuinely. 4% is quite low. I think when it comes through and then we start to see, the Rabbits try and maybe lock in a bit more stability out of that side, and, with the injury losses too, they just want to cover themselves a bit more defensively. I reckon that goes up, because, Jai Arrow in the past has been a bit of a gun. So there's a bit of, you'd be hoping to go back to even just a slight bump in form if he just gets a bit more of a run, because there's nothing saying he can't jump 10 points, very, very easily off his previous average. And I like that. It's just, honestly, I can't really think too much of like a downplay of it, to be fair. I'm trying to find something that's convincing me not to look at it properly, but I'm just getting more and more appealed by it too.
I'll throw another point in for you. You can easily switch between back row and front row during a game, which is extremely handy as well, because that increases his minutes that he can play. So I don't know if I'll start with him, but I'll tell you right now, if, say, Burgess or Totola or Kepi are to go down for a period of time, especially early on, I'm seriously looking at Jai Arrow, because I know that will then increase his minutes. He might start on an edge to start the game, and then 20, 25 minutes into it, he might go into the prop rotation for a bit, let some of the big boys have a breather, and then go back or take a break. But he's already played his 60-odd minutes or something and gotten a shitload of base and done what Jai Arrow can do. So I don't think he's a buy at the moment, if I'm being brutally honest, but I definitely think he's a huge watch. And it's everyone, like, you just keep an eye on what's going to happen here, because I don't know what South have done in the offseason if they've walked under ladders, but clearly there's some sort of injury bug there at the moment, unfortunately. And they're getting hit with that injury stick very early on. So you don't know what's going to happen between now and the rest. They've got the Charity Shield to play. We all know that goes up a bit of a level compared to the other trials, because there is a bit of a trophy there to play for. Never know. Just keep an eye on him.
Yeah, he's on my watch list for sure, man. I don't know if I'd make the play to get him in, but I'm definitely, half tempted if something changes. So.
No, I agree. Tom Burgess, 0%. I'm just going to skip past him, because I think he's going to start off the bench, and he's just not an option anymore. I think that's Tom Burgess's time. The next man, I'm just going to pass it over to you. Tavita Totola, 42.7 average in 2023 from 15 games. I'm actually surprised it was 15. I feel like he hardly played last year, and he ended up playing 15 games. Currently owned 3%, and I know one of those 3% is the guy doing this podcast with us, Jesse.
Yes.
Take it away, because I know I'm going to declare he's been your man from the start of this, and everyone's starting to pile on.
At 3% ownership, I don't think many people are piling on. It's more so, I don't know, man. I've just got a bit of a feeling about it. I like what I see from him. Like he seems like, just looking at his previous scores, he has a 50 season and he has a 40 season. He has a 50 and then a 40, and he's due for his 50 this year, just going off that. So that's as basic as you can go into stats. But, you look at the forwards, you currently look at the injury situation, you think, what are they going to be doing as far as, well, it's mainly in the backs that you're sort of worrying about. But again, anything can happen. I feel like, I've seen, we've all seen those preseason photos of the team getting through, and they're all, raving on about Totola and how fit he is and how ready he is, ready to go. And I like that, I like that bit of preseason hype out of it in general. It gets me going a little bit. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I've looked at it. I've looked at 435 as a price tag. All I see is an absolute minimum for him at 435. I don't think, even if there's not a great deal of upside, even if it's just, he'll score a 50, he might score a 60, or he'll score a 40. You know what I mean? I'm fine with it at 435. It's definitely a fine plug. If I have to change down the line, if he goes up, happy days. If not, I'm happy to play it. But yeah, I've had him in the team, I think, since like day one, basically. I just looked at it and I thought, yeah, I can get on board with that. I remember drafting Totola a few years ago. When I think I just needed to fill a hole. I had an injury or something. I can't remember the specifics. But when I got him in, he was an absolute weapon for maybe 6 or so weeks while I had him. And it would have been later towards the end, so I would have had more of a push, though I remembered having him so much. But he was just a beast, and he never put me wrong once. And then, occasionally every year after that, I might have picked him up, and he's always done me good. So I've got that bit of loyalty to him, I think. But at the end of the day, man, I'm very happy with his price. There's a bit around that early 400s. And when I decided to get away from the big Haas play in the front row and then try and spread the cash out, I was just like, cool, man. If I have to have Totola as my starting main prop, obviously you're not going to captain anyone. He's not going to be my captaincy option, but there's no buys to worry about for, I think, 6, 7 rounds. They play through for a long while. There's not much to worry about. I just feel like it's low risk as long as he stays fit. That's pretty much.
It's very safe from you.
It is. Well, I think you need to here and there. You know what I mean? I've got risk everywhere, and I've got a lot of upside. Like, I go for those ceiling plays where you can, but at the end of the day, like, you still need to have something that's just going to pot along. Last year it was Christian Welsh. He was my pot along prop. Everyone's had those guys.
Prop is the position you can have the safety option there. If you can just get some guys that, as you said, plot along at 45 to 50 each week, you're going to get 100 points between them or whatever, and that's basically what you want. I think, especially to start with for Supercoach, when you're getting the rest of your team worked out and trying to get all those backline guns in and things like that, I feel like the more I'm starting to do stuff within the Supercoach circle, I feel like props that one where you can just go, you know what, I'm just going to give it away. I'm going to give the Payne Haas owners who want to spend on that, you know what, take your extra 20 points. In the long run, I'll get you.
Yeah, it's like a safety first thing, really. Just get someone in there that can do a job while I work out how to make my cash elsewhere. Because you're not really going to make a lot of cash in your props, realistically. And if you are going to, it's kind of that price point that you want to get someone at that will do it. Because, you're getting someone in the 550s and anything above that, really, it's kind of all base, and you can't rely on any attacking stats for any prop. Like AFB was an outlier with Tino last year.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to, that's the reason why there's only 2 or 3 of them at the top, and then it fell off, is because it just doesn't happen all the time. So when it does happen, you take it and you fucking run with it. Is you hold on and you think, damn, I just got to try for a prop. Those points are usually worth 40 on their own because of how much work they do to get to the line. So, if you've got a friggin' massive unit like Totola as well, and if you're right there on the 10, like, you got to just pray and hope it goes to him and he can charge over. But there's no risk at 430, man. And I feel like it could only go up, and I'm just fine to plug it with a bit of safety for once. So that's where I am with it.
Mate, I respect that. And look, as I said, you started Tavita's Totola movement. You are I feel like you've got a bromance with him. I hope this year you and him meet, get a photo, and we'll stick it up on League of Inches. It'll be my background, I feel like, because this is the start of something special between the two of you. And Tavita, if you are listening, reach out. We will make it happen. I hope you could both even though he's a diehard Roosters man, don't take that to heart. He's
I'm a diehard
kind of a
Supercoach
decent
man,
bloke.
and
Yeah,
he's
he's
been a
more
loyal.
Supercoach now.
He's been loyal. I think it goes back to almost 2019, 18, where I got onto the Totola thing. Early days for him too. That's why no one really picked him up. So he was doing good things then, man. He's always done the same sort of numbers. So very consistent for at least 6 years. Can't knock it.
Ride or die. Next on the list, Sean Kepi got the jewel as well, 385K against his former club straight off the bat. You love that as a player just to get that match out of the way. 2% ownership, 37.8 average. To be honest, I don't see him getting any extra workload here at South at the moment.
Probably
And
not.
the Jai Arrow, not knowing what Jai Arrow's role is, pretty much just tells me no to Kepi at the moment, because I feel like Arrow might even eat into some of his minutes when it comes to the prop rotations and stuff. So, yeah, I'm not interested in Kepi.
No, neither am I. To be honest with you, I'm not really interested in anyone else in their forward pack line. To be honest, looking down the list, Shakai Mitchell, Saluka Fafita, Moali, none of them are options. None of them are irrelevant. Even if they do get an increase in minutes, I still don't like any of them as a pick. So it's Totola or nothing,
quickly on
baby.
the Moali, Moali one, I have heard people talk about him. I'm with you. I don't get it, because I look at especially just the forward pack alone, like here the props. If he's going to be a bench forward, and I'm seriously wondering if he can get over 20 minutes. And if that's my serious concern. I don't know if he's going to be able to get the minutes to become Supercoach relevant, even at 265K, because he's not bottom dollar. There's definitely props out there that are cheaper than him that will get for mine more minutes on a consistent basis elsewhere.
Yeah,
2% ownership. I'm not getting the Moale talk.
No, I think it's just more so need someone cheap. But again, you can get cheaper with more potential upside. Samuel Hughes is for one, and he's cheaper. So I don't see it. But there's a lot of coaches out there, and it's a big game. So someone's got to own him. He's got a big family.
Second row forwards, Mr. Cameron Murray, 9% ownership, 62.6 average last year, through 21 games. Are you still an owner?
Not at the moment. No, I was for a long, long time.
Oh,
I'd have to just try and find a way in, man. I still do want him, and I think now with everything going on, I think he might just have a bit more workload for himself. But again, man, I made the point a long time ago that I feel like he's just very undervalued where he's coming in at. If you don't get onto him early, it'll be one of those picks that you probably just don't get, or you don't make down the line either. And the ones that do own him are going to probably enjoy what he's doing. So I had him last year, and he did tank a little bit. Sort of did pick up a little bit towards the back, but at the right in the middle of the season where everything started to change, he obviously did drop. But you're going to get those 70s like base, you know what I mean? Like at least a 70 out of him, and he's priced at 60, 62. So there's upside there for sure. But yeah.
You know what? I feel like, and I just quickly looked at the scores after I thought this, and it sort of sums it up for me. Even though it's a hard start for South, that's sort of the games that he shines in. And you don't, like, for me as a super coach, and if I was wanting to make the play, it wouldn't put me off selecting him. If anything, I'd be thinking, I want him more because I know I'm going to get quality out of him and probably more minutes, because JD seems to play him longer for these bigger games. And looking at his average last year for Manly, they versed him once, as I said, 60 points. For the Broncos, 76 and a 43. I have a feeling that 43, I actually think he may have gone off. I think there could have been a head knock or something there. I'm not too sure, but all Broncos were just, it was a good game. Then the Roosters, a 92 and a 61. So, and then in 2022, he actually got 129 against him. So he's been able to produce some pretty good scores against some of these teams. So as I was saying, like, it doesn't put me off if I was interested. I personally, I'm not, just because there's so many mid-ranges and it frees me up 200K not having him. That's the only thing that's putting me off getting him. But if I was able to find 200K somewhere and I was happy with the rest of my team, he'd probably be that guy I actually go for, because I can definitely see upside with him with that draw.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, man. Those games too. That 43 points, he played 70 minutes. That was just where he started tanking.
Yeah,
He did
okay.
it a few times. So he did it against the Panthers. He scored 46, and he did it against the Storm, scored 40. So going against Panthers, Broncos, Melbourne, it's a pretty rough 3-game run. He did pretty shit in pretty solid minute roles, but it was everyone did, and he actually he bottomed out at 467K. Like, that's insane. That's very cheap for him. So,
He
you
gets
do
to that
take
this
the
year.
risk, but
It's on.
oh man, if he gets anywhere near that, if he gets close to 500, you got to be jumping on that sort of thing, because they did pick up, and then from what was it, from round 18, it was an 86, a 76, a 78, 72, like pretty much exactly what you expect from Cam Murray. And now another thing too, like obviously there are a lot of mid ranges, and we've made the point about how much they would have to make to get into like a day for feeder territory without having to really boost or dismantle something else. It gives you that little notch up. If he does start to go up, if he comes out in the first few weeks and scores, 70, 75, 80, 90 points, he will go up. And then it's going to put you in, almost just reaching distance of trading him for feeder if that looks really, really good on his side. So that's kind of the reason why I did want to have someone in that price as well. At the moment, I don't, but I would just need to cull one of them to boost the other one up. So I'm not opposed to it yet, but I'm still just holding on to that Cleary Hines combo, man. If I don't do that, the sky's anything can happen. So yeah, I see him there and I want him. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Next on the list, Keon Matangi, 2% ownership, 626K, so about 13K cheaper than Murray. 61K, 61.3 average last year with 18 games. There's something about Keon that always has me tempted to go for him. And
Yep.
no matter what his price tag is, it just feels like he's that damaging ball running forward who can produce some good scores. And then I look at it and I see, like last year against Manly, 72 points. Both the Broncos games, he got 40 points. Roosters, 45 points, but then they got 104. There's one of those 100 games I was talking about. So I think that's what you're going to get from him. And that's the annoying thing, because in reality, he's a gun. Like I've
Yeah.
got him in the Blues team already this year. And so I think that's the level he will get to in 2024. But from a super coach perspective, he's a frustrating player to own. I have owned him in the past. I've reaped the benefits, but I've also been stuck with him as well. I'm really not sure what to do with him this year. I don't know what to think of the 2%, because part of me is thinking 2% is pretty low for him, but then I'm thinking 2% is also probably fair enough, especially once again, like we mentioned it every single time we talk about second rollers, just that mid-tier range is I think impacting a lot of these
Yeah.
more expensive sort of players, where in any other years, these sorts of percentages, like the 2%, would probably be 6 or 7% in any other year.
Yeah. The mid ranges are more relevant this year than ever, really, and we've seen it. Everyone's talking about it, and everyone's second row looks the same. So again, like at his price, I would just go up. What is it, 8K, and get Cam Murray, because I'd prefer that. But the thing is with Koloamatangi, he passes the eye test every single game, and then you check his scores, and they're just not up to scratch compared to what you think he would have done. Because you just see every run that he does, and it does look damaging, man. Like you see, he'll do a couple of things, and you're just thinking, holy shit, like this guy's just gone an absolute tear, and it just hasn't translated. So I'm a fan of him, though. I actually haven't had him before. I've always looked at him, and I've always thought about making the trade there, and I'm a bit of an advocate to try and get him into the team, but I have actually not done it before. So I've always just admired from afar. So I haven't felt the sting like you would have done last season. But
Not nice.
you see the ups and downs with him, and it's just unfortunate with his sort of game, man. Because yeah, you're going to be getting a lot of those 50s, 60s. Again, he has got the upside for it. Like he has got that sort of potential to really get you 100 points, but it won't happen often. But too high at the moment with the amount of mid-tier players. It's the only reason his ownership's low, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Moving on, Jacob Host, Michael Cheekham, both 0% ownership, and there's reasons for that. I don't think either can get into this team, especially at the moment, full strength forward pack. The only other player I really want to talk about in here is Tallis Duncan. 22% ownership. Surprised that's not more, if I'm actually being honest. And this is my reason for the fact that I think he's one of the first players you should be getting in a second row position. Look, we've already spoken, but the injuries have probably affected his chances of starting. But he's one of those players I don't think whether it's starting or off the bench will impact him too much when it comes to Supercoach points because I can still see him getting enough minutes. And it's going to be quality minutes from him. Like I feel like he's going to be one of those real breakout stars this year that we end up looking back on it. He's got a points per minute of 1.2 points per minute. And he's just like he's a worker. He's one of those guys when he gets on the field, the ball just finds him and players find him. He's tackling everyone. He's like a headless chook in a way. And these young, talented players with those sorts of with that mind frame and stuff, that's who I'm sort of like the look of. And I know that's going to equal Supercoach points. So I'm all over Tallis Duncan to start the year.
Yeah, no, me too, man. The hype's definitely there for him. If he can get that spot, which, I feel like he's going to at least appear, he's going to feature, whether it's starting or not. I don't think he'll start for a little bit, but I definitely reckon he'll get a bit of a run. He might be priced at what he'll do to begin with until he sort of picks those minutes up. It might be a bit of a slow burn, but if you can get a starting spot or even just a bit more of a bench minutes role, I like the pick, man. There's not too much at the 320s for your second row anyway. So, it could just be a high ownership, big hype train sort of thing leading into the first round. It doesn't go anywhere, but it can't hurt to throw him in there for now and just hope you see him because he did do some pretty cool stuff last season. You're right about him out there too. It just seems to gravitate towards him. It seems like he's every second run that comes through. Like he'll just go for the hit ups. Like I think he wants to prove a point. It seems so. It's got to be.
He's just there.
Exactly. Like he sort of just pops his head up and he's just there. So obviously he's got the work rate for it. It's not happening on its own. Like he's finding the ball himself. So. It would be good to see him get a run, man. I don't think it can hurt in general for him, but there is a fair bit of talent to get through. So just have to wait and see. But I like it. I like the pick there. A lot of people are on him.
He's a talent. He's a very talented player. Halfback, Lockie Ilias or Dean Hawkins. That's pretty much their NRL battle as well. It's between them, and I feel like they're pretty close, and I think Hawkins will end up having the 7 jersey from a lot of this year. Personally, but that's no knock on Ilias. I just don't feel like it has been working for South Sydney and him. That 2% ownership, Ilias. I am scratching my head at that one, even though it's a small amount. 427k.
Yeah,
I can't see it. Like I looked at his scores, and if you're getting him for the run that they've got, there's a 51 against Manly, which you probably would take with him, but the rest 24 and 36 against the Broncos. And a 39 and a 37 against the Roosters. So
it's not good, man.
I can't see him. If Hawkins ends up getting it, I can see a temptation for maybe Hawkins down the line. But again, halfback's hard because I'm with you. Like I in my head, I really want to avoid probably Nathan Cleary and try and change it up. I just can't do it. Every time I try and do it, it just I don't know. I'll get the shakes. I'll get like all sweaty and the knees are weak, palms are sweaty, and I just can't do it to myself. So I'm just.
Nah. You're not going Cleary down to.
You're
not going from Cleary to Ilias in a million years. Not even for a cash down. Look, Dean Hawkins fan. Who knows? Who knows what that's going to do? I'd be surprised to see him, but if you've got a bit of hope there for him to come through, you're going to play with that sort of money in your halves. I don't think so.
No, you need to have players playing as well. That's the other big key thing that we'll continue to tell everyone, especially to start the year, as many players playing in your squad as you can possibly fit and make work. 5'8", the only one to touch on here is obviously Cody Walker. 3% ownership, 705k. For mine is a no-go now that he's under an injury cloud. That's not helping at all. 705k, I'd rather spend a bit more and go Dylan Brown personally. And that's all I've really got to say on Cody Walker. I mean, this year.
3% ownership should be lower. Should be way lower. Like, I'm not a fan. I'll make that quite vocal. I don't know him. Obviously, it's nothing personal. I just can't stand him. I can't stand watching him. I've been burnt by him before, having him in a team, and I thought, you know what, I'm never going to do that again. I've been burnt by players. You know, you get burnt here and there, but I take it personally when it's him. So, yeah, it's not happening for me. You couldn't pay me to have Cody Walker in the team. I know there's some people that like it, and if he gets a bit of a run going, I'll still find reasons to go anyone else. So, yeah, not the kind of person you want asking the opinion for this one. I'm not a fan.
No,
Sorry, Cody.
that's
700K. It's 700 too much, in my opinion.
Let's move on from Cody then. Campbell Graham, 703K. There's still 1% that own him. Whoever you are out there, or the people that own him, hurry up and move him on. He's out till around at least 22. He's not playing this year, so move him on. Alex Johnston, 3%, and I'm going to switch over to Jesse here because he's currently an owner at 596K. Average last year 58.4 over 23 matches. I'm going to start off by asking you this question. Is the fact that he's edging closer to the try-scoring record making you a bit more keen on owning Alex Johnston? The fact that South Sydney players will be passing him the ball over the line to hope he gets there?
There's so many more reasons now that I want Alex Johnston. And if it sounds like as well, like you mentioned, he's in my team. If you watch the team reveal and he wasn't in there, my team obviously changed since then. So I have got him back in. He was in my initial team reveal. I think when I did the initial team reveal, I spoke about why I had him in the team too. He is just a gun try scorer. He'll score just bucket loads. I think now the fact that their right edge has been decimated, they want to put Kolomatangi on the left as well. I don't know what they're going to do with that right edge anymore. I think it's just finished. Like, you're going to have everything channeling down the left. You may as well just have a left edge and forget the right-hand side in general, because there's just nothing left of them. They've given up on the right-hand side. It's finished. All the attention's on the left. So AJ's obviously going to get the bulk of pretty much every side of attack, I would say. When Whiten comes in, Whiten will be there. Unless obviously they put Whiten to the other side to sort of balance it, but he's played 5'8", like he's already right next to him anyway. So he's just going to have so much more opportunity. He's so close to that all-time try scorer too. So I reckon he gets it this year. I reckon he does better this year than he did last year, because I just think he's just going to be force-fed the ball a bit more, and I will 100% get on board with that. So the run's not good, but I'll take it.
I'm going to try and talk the Supercoach expert out of a play.
Go on then, please.
I feel like I'm the opposite to you. I feel like now that the injury news has come out, I feel like it's become more predictable what way South Sydney will attack, even more so than ever before. And I think teams have, especially the back half of last year, are starting to work them out a lot more, and how they attack. It's still a potent left edge. Do not get me wrong about that. It is still fantastic. I'm actually, if I was in your shoes and I was tempted with Alex Johnston, personally, because of the injuries that have happened recently, I would be jumping off. Yeah. Especially early on with the draw.
I wouldn't overthink it. You got to think, like, it hasn't stopped him before. Like, he'll still pop 20-plus tries out of you. Everyone sort of works that out. You can only do so much.
I think he's going to drop in price, though. I think he's going to drop in price early. Look at he scored last year against Manly 37 points. The Broncos 82 and a 29. And the Roosters a 24 and a 59.
Yeah,
so for his price, he's only scored one game over.
Yeah. No, it just depends. Like, the thing with him is that you have to time his ownership. You know what I mean? Like, you really have to just find the point where he's firing. And it all depends on how the Rabbits start firing, is obviously where he starts scoring those tries. So that's kind of why I had that bit of hope for them to start early on, because I thought that he could probably hit the ground running with it. Now I just feel like if anything's going to happen, it has to happen down the left, regardless of how they're doing anything. So, yeah, I just, he's done me good in the past. I can't really knock it for that. I don't hate the price, to be fair. If I was going to change to anyone else in the 600s, it'd be Karaz. And at the moment, I'm finding, I'm splitting hairs trying to pick which one it is. But when you just look at it on paper, I think AJ's just got a bit more upside. At least just out
You
of
know
that
what?
attacking thing. So
I'm actually versing you this year, so I think you should keep AJ. I think it's a
okay,
really, really good buy for you. So
I really hope the fixtures line up where he plays the Tigers and he scores 6 tries against you.
and you got captain on him.
Yeah, I've captained him in the past too, and I've gotten really good points out of it. So he's one of those old faithfuls, but trying to talk me out of
Isaiah
it.
Tuss, 577K, 0% ownership. Even with this news that has come out now, I still don't really think I'm going to be
Yeah,
jumping on for him, so I'm happy to move on. Jack Whiten,
super pricey.
529K, 6% ownership. Holy shit, what are you guys doing?
I
He's
don't know.
not
He's
playing
suspended.
until round 3, so jump off because especially to start with, he's not a play. And personally, I don't even know if he's a play yet once he is playing because I just don't know the role he's going to have. I don't know how involved he's going to get himself. I've still got some question marks around how involved he will be. So I don't even think he's a Supercoach play to start with once he is playing. Personally, what about you? Do you think Whiten's a play or what?
I don't hate the play, to be fair. Like, obviously, 3% ownership. Definitely don't start with him. They just don't realize that he's suspended. But like, it's tempting if he
Where are
was
they?
playing. Hey,
Where are they? Where are they been? It's like
yeah.
been
I
front
don't know.
page news.
Yeah, I don't understand. Look, he's the only times he's really played at center was instead of Origin, and he
Yeah.
did piss all. Like, he's done nothing at center. So like, going off that, it's not very good. It's not a good reference point to look at. So you can't go that and go, okay, yeah, that obviously that price is 5.8 points. Whether or not he's just another 5.8 out there and he's just doing as much work as Walker's doing, who knows? But again, I do want to see him before anything happens. He's another player like Cody Walker that you can just absolutely fry you in a week and do nothing. So it's a very, wrap him with caution because it's risky. But yeah, it's pricey to start. But if he doesn't, if he comes out flying, I wouldn't be surprised. So he obviously wanted to be there too. Like, he just seemed like he wanted to get away from the Raiders. So maybe the mental state thing might be better for him. Because I think
Blame
he
him.
took a mad pay cut to get away from him. So, could see some good footy out of him, man.
I know people out there that would pay quality money to get out of Canberra, but that's another story.
Yeah.
Tyrone Munro, 6% ownership. I think that's because these people probably haven't logged in to the app since the news has come out that he's out for, I think it's 8 weeks or something.
8
So
weeks.
he's definitely not a play. So let's just get him out of the team, unfortunately, because there was
It's
a
a
bit of
shame.
temptation around him.
Yeah.
483. I know you personally have been tempted with him. I think that you had him once or twice when you were playing around with your team. So
Yeah. Yeah, I did.
maybe down the track, maybe once we'd get to the origin period and stuff, we might be able to talk about him again and say, you know what, maybe Munro's that sneaky option to get because when South of time and they run, they always are like a back half, usually a specialist, apart from last year. But yeah.
Yeah. He was that option that I was gonna go. If it's not Johnson, it's 100K less, I'll go to Munro. And I feel like they're probably gonna do the same. Maybe Munro can actually do more, but then obviously Graham got injured. And I thought, okay, well, there goes. I was like, you know what, Graham's out. Munro's position on the wing was, already in contention, but I don't feel like it's in as much contention anymore because they'll be moving into the centres. And then like 3 days later, broken collarbone. I thought, well, there goes that in general. So who cares? But 8 weeks for a broken collarbone. Have you broken your collarbone?
I fractured it.
I snapped mine clean in half. Poked it right out. 8 weeks. Like his X-ray is a clean snap straight in half. There's no chance I'm doing any sort of tackling after 8 weeks. I'm not a physical athlete like these guys. But a broken
Come
bone
on,
is
you
a
are.
fucking
You're a
Supercoach
super coach
athlete.
athlete.
That's right. But a broken bone's it's broken, man. It's gonna flog. I don't care how much padding you put on it. 8 weeks is too soon.
They'll put the plate over it and stuff.
Oh,
They'll do
fuck.
something.
They got to do something, man. But yeah, I don't know. It's a shame. It's a shame that option's off the table now because it was very, very tempting. It might just make it a bit easier to choose against it because obviously he's not going to start. But yeah, it was. It did look pretty good for a while. So hopefully no more of them.
No, no, I don't want to talk about anyone else really for the back line, so I'm going to move on to fullback. There's no real other options that I can see for South. Fullback, there is only one player at the back, and he is pictured on our beautiful slides, and it's Latrell Mitchell, 789K, 10% ownership currently, a 77.3 average from 16 matches last year. I was part of the 10% ownership, but I got off it last week with our live episode. Not anticipating any live trades this week's episode, but who knows? I said that. I thought that last week, but then I got Teddy in my team. But yeah, Latrell Mitchell. And there's a point up there about can he be trusted? I can't trust him yet. I need to see it. And I'm happy to be burnt by not having him for the week that he scores his 100 or something. At least then I'll know, okay, we've got Latrell back. I love Latrell Mitchell. I love everything he can do on the football field. I think he's one of the most naturally gifted football players we've been able to see in our lifetime. We are so lucky to have him around. I hate some of the things that get said about him and how people treat him, but there is a thing there that he can. I don't know if consistently is the right word, but he has a tendency to be in and out of games quite a bit. And if he's not there mentally, then he just is completely zoned out. We've heard this offseason, he said he's matured a lot. He wants to be there for South Sydney and be their main guy. I'm hoping that's the case. Again, I'm hoping I'm burnt by him because that means we've got that Latrell Mitchell that we all want. And I'll be moving heaven and earth to get him once we do see that Latrell. But I can't start with him.
No? Yeah, man, I'm very, very tempted. I'm very tempted with fullbacks that kick in general.
Yeah.
Obviously, it just adds a whole nother element to how much points they can score. And if the team's firing, he's firing, and he's also kicking, and he kicks well. So I think this year he is underpriced quite a lot, to be fair. I think it's only a matter of time before we see him win a Dally M, I hope. Because he is that guy, man. He can do it. Like, he's a freak, man, absolute freak when he's on. So it's one of those players, like, you know, you look at 22, you average 85, but 100's easy work for him, man, when he's playing, if he's in the right space for it. So I think if you're going to get him, you get him at a discount right now.
Have you got the stats opened up?
Yeah.
Don't look at the last, like the three opponents coming up stats. I want to ask you a question. What do you reckon he averaged last year versus Manly, Brisbane, and the Roosters?
Well, I'm looking at him. So average, you're probably looking at 80 plus. Like, obviously he had that 34 against him, but a 68, 141. Like, he's put it on every big team there is, man. 96 against the Broncos, 66 against the Roosters, here and there. Like, you know, and you got to look at his price too. It's off a 77 average. Like, I feel like Latrell can walk into 77 points.
But he only done that once against these teams last year. A 96.
Yeah, but we had all the problems. Like, there was a lot of problems with the Rabbitohs last year. Obviously, we don't know yet. The game hasn't even started yet.
Yeah.
We don't know how it's going to go. Obviously, they've got a bit to work on at the moment. But it's Latrell, man. Like, you get him in and out of these games and you take the risk on it. But when you don't own him and he's scoring like 100, it's like everyone that didn't have Drinkwater last year. And you're looking at him and you're thinking, how the hell do I get this guy in the team? And then by the time you can, he's already priced out a point. I feel like at the moment it's kind of like one of the best prices you're really going to get him at. There's a chance he dips come round 4. But that's against the Bulldogs. And I like, you know, if you're going to get on him, you want him for the Bulldogs game at least. Yeah. So it's very tempting, man. Like, there's a lot of options at fullback this year. And he's almost the cheapest one out of all of them that you'd really want to be pushing for that main guy. Obviously, you've got Teddy in there, and I had him in there last week too. And I like him at 700, but the problem is how tight they all are in price. So at the moment...
Does the weaker backline put you off a bit, getting Latrell? Not
really. No. Doesn't. It sort of just means, I just reckon it means that he does more individually. Obviously, you know, Teddy has that issue about overplaying his hand, and doing too much. I don't feel like Latrell can do too much. I feel like he does too little, if anything. So it might force his hand to play a bit more, which is always good for his score. Because the more he gets the ball and the more he does, the more he will just explode. So if he hasn't got a reason to sit back, or if they're getting walked on, that's a different story altogether. But I don't know. I'm always tempted by Latrell all the time if I don't have him. And I suppose if I do have him, I'm yelling at the TV wanting to do something good. So it's just, like he's 789. You've got a couple above him at 800, and then you got Tommy Turbo at 833, who's currently my backup fullback. He's the second fullback in my team as it stands. I obviously love Tommy, and I love the upside out of him. It's just Latrell can do this very similar things, and he also has the kicking upside too. So, man, 10% ownerships, I feel like it could be higher, to be honest. You know, he's good, man. He's a really good option, but you do take it with a bit of risk. So there's that.
Yep. No, as I said, I do hope I eat my own words and Latrell starts the season on fire. I remember last year, like when they had like the Panthers, I remember that game pretty close. I remember it quite well, and that was a quality Penrith side, and he just stepped up, and I think he scored pretty well that day, Supercoach wise, and he played a blinder as well. And he definitely, as I said, when he's on, like when his mind is there, he's arguably the best player in the competition. So it's definitely nerve-wracking not owning him. But I won't say right now that I will go the whole year without having him. I think there will be a point in time that I do try and have him. But as you said, I might be bit and I might not be able to get him. But see what happens, see what I can work around. I don't have an unlimited salary cap like you do for your teams. So I've got to actually work with us normal Supercoach plebs. That's where I'm at the moment. I don't get the KFC slippers and towel and vouchers. So
yeah, I've got the Nick Politis voucher for the extra $5 million budget.
You've got everything. But yeah, that's basically it for I think South Sydney. I think we can happily move on. I feel like we've covered South quite well.
Yeah.
And again, it was detailed, deluxe, and